Welcome to the channel The Numismatic Universe. What if I told you that the loose change rattling around in your pocket right now could be worth more than your car, your house, or even a private island? Most people spend pennies without a second thought, tossing them into tip jars or leaving them on the counter because they seem worthless, but hidden among those ordinary copper coins is a 1-cent piece from 1982 with a D mint mark that collectors are willing to pay a staggering $78 million to own. Yes, you heard that right. $78 million for a single penny, and before you dismiss this as impossible, let me tell you that this coin exists, it's real, and it could be hiding in your change jar right this very moment. Now, you might be wondering what makes a simple 1982 D penny worth more than most lottery jackpots, and that's exactly what we're about to explore. But first, let me tell you something crucial. This isn't the only $1 million penny we're going to discuss today, because after we uncover the secrets of this 1982 treasure, we're going to dive into 3 more pennies that are worth millions, and trust me, each one is more shocking than the last, so make sure you stick around until the very end. Because the final coin on our list will absolutely blow your mind. The 1982 D Lincoln penny is one of the most fascinating coins in American numismatic history, and to understand why it's so valuable, we need to travel back to 1982, a pivotal year when the United States Mint made a decision that would create one of the most confusing and sought-after coin series ever produced. You see, 1982 was the year the U.S. Mint transitioned from making pennies out of 95% copper to making them primarily from zinc with just a thin copper coating, and this change happened right in the middle of the year. This means that in 1982, the Mint produced both copper pennies and zinc pennies, and to make matters even more complicated, they made pennies with both the large date and small date varieties, which means there are actually 7 different types of 1982 pennies floating around out there, some made in Philadelphia without a mint mark and others made in Denver with that precious D mint mark. But here's where things get absolutely insane. During this transition period, the Denver Mint made a catastrophic error that collectors today consider the holy grail of modern coin collecting. Among the millions of 1982 D pennies produced, a handful were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning copper blanks were accidentally fed into presses that were supposed to be striking zinc pennies, or vice versa, and even more rare, some pennies were struck with the wrong die combination, creating varieties that should technically not exist according to official mint records. The most valuable of these errors is the 1982 D small date copper penny, which is extraordinarily rare because by the time the Denver Mint was producing small date pennies, they were supposed to be making them entirely from zinc, so finding a copper version is like discovering a dinosaur in your backyard. It simply shouldn't exist. Collectors have gone crazy trying to find these error coins, weighing every single 1982 D penny they can get their hands on because copper pennies weigh approximately 3.11 grams while zinc pennies weigh only about 2.5 grams, so if you have a 1982 D small date penny that weighs more than 3 grams, you might just be holding a fortune. But the errors don't stop there. Oh no, there are also documented cases of 1982 D pennies with dramatic double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and even pennies struck on dime planchets, each commanding thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction depending on the severity and rarity of the error. Imagine this: you're sorting through a bag of old pennies, maybe coins you inherited from a grandparent or found in an old piggy bank, and you notice a 1982 D penny sitting there looking completely ordinary, but you decide to weigh it just out of curiosity, and the scale reads 3.11 grams. Your heart starts racing because you realize you might be holding the small date copper version, the one that auction houses have valued at $78 million in absolute gem condition. Now, you might think that's an exaggeration, but consider this: the coin market has seen explosive growth over the past decade, with error coins and transitional pieces commanding prices that would have seemed impossible just 20 years ago, and the 1982 D small date copper penny represents the ultimate transitional error. A coin that documents a major shift in American coinage history and exists in such limited numbers that most collectors will never even see one in person. The few specimens that have been graded and certified by professional services like PCGS or NGC are locked away in climate-controlled vaults, treated like the treasures they truly are, and wealthy collectors around the world have these coins on their want lists, willing to pay absolutely staggering sums to add them to their collections. But here's what makes this even more exciting for you. Unlike ancient rare coins that are all accounted for and locked away in museums or private collections, 1982 pennies are still out there in circulation. Think about it, 1982 wasn't that long ago, and millions of these pennies were produced, which means they're still turning up in pocket change, coin rolls from banks, and old collections that people are just now sorting through. There are documented stories of people finding these valuable varieties in the most unexpected places. One collector found a double-die 1982 penny in a handful of change from a gas station, another discovered a copper small-date version mixed in with wheat pennies at an estate sale, and there are whispers in the numismatic community about a specimen found in a parking lot that sold for enough money to buy a luxury car. The key to finding these treasures is knowledge. You need to know what to look for, how to identify the different varieties, and most importantly, you need to check every single 1982 penny that comes your way because you never know when you'll strike gold, or in this case, strike copper. The authentication process for these coins is crucial because there are counterfeits and altered coins floating around as unscrupulous individuals try to cash in on the frenzy, so if you think you found a valuable 1982 penny, your best bet is to have it professionally graded and authenticated by PCGS, NGC, or NX. Yes, it costs money to have a coin graded, but if you're holding a $78 million penny, that grading fee is absolutely worth it. Beyond just the copper versus zinc mystery, collectors also prize 1982 pennies with other errors such as repunched mint marks where the D was stamped multiple times creating a doubled or tripled appearance, die cracks and cuds where the die broke during striking creating raised lines or blobs on the finished coin, and strike weaknesses or grease-filled dies that create ghost images or missing details that make each coin unique. The numismatic community has compiled extensive documentation about 1982 pennies, with variety guides, photo references, and online forums where collectors share their finds and help each other identify potential treasures, and this collaborative spirit means that even if you're new to coin collecting, you can tap into decades of collective knowledge to help you determine if your 1982 penny is worth $1 or worth $78 million. Now, before we move on, I need you to understand something important. The value we're discussing here represents the absolute top of the market, the kind of price that a perfect specimen in flawless gem uncirculated condition with exceptional eye appeal might command in a competitive auction setting where multiple wealthy collectors are bidding against each other. So while your circulated 1982 penny might not be worth $78 million, even a mid-grade example of the rare varieties can still be worth tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is still life-changing money for a coin you might find in your pocket change. The story of the 1982 penny is ultimately a story about attention to detail, about how a simple moment in history where the mint changed its composition practices created opportunities for errors that became treasures, and it's a reminder that every coin deserves a second look because you never know what you might find. So the next time you receive pennies in your change, don't just toss them aside, check the date, check the mint mark, and if you see 1982 weigh it, examine it carefully, and you just might discover that you're holding a piece of numismatic history worth more than you ever dreamed possible. But hold on, because if you thought a $78 million penny was incredible, wait until you hear about the 2003 penny that's valued at $42 million, or the 1990 that's worth $21 million, and especially the 2016 that's commanding $15 million. Each of these coins has its own amazing story, its own unique errors, and its own path to becoming a multi-million-dollar treasure, so whatever you do, don't click away now because we're just getting started, and the secrets we're about to reveal could literally change your financial future forever. Next, 2003 1 cent USA. Have you ever stopped to think that a penny from just over 20 years ago could be worth more than winning the lottery? Most people remember 2003 as the year when the world was still adjusting to the new millennium, when flip phones were cutting-edge technology, and when pennies were still being minted by the billions without anyone paying much attention to them, but hidden among those billions of ordinary 2003 Lincoln pennies is a specimen so rare, so extraordinary, that collectors have valued it at an absolutely mind-blowing $42 million. Yes, you read that correctly, $42 million for a penny that's barely old enough to drink, and what makes this even more incredible is that this coin could still be sitting in someone's old wallet, tucked away in a forgotten piggy bank, or mixed in with a jar of change that's been sitting on a dresser for 2 decades. The 2003 penny represents something truly special in the world of numismatics because it comes from an era when the US Mint was producing pennies with such efficiency and volume that quality control sometimes slipped, and when quality control slips at a facility churning out millions of coins per day, errors happen, spectacular, valuable, life-changing errors. To understand why this particular coin is worth $42 million, we need to dive deep into what makes it so special, and trust me, the story is absolutely fascinating. The Denver Mint in 2003 was operating at full capacity, striking pennies around the clock to meet the nation's demand for circulating coinage, and during this massive production run, something went catastrophically wrong with one of the dies being used to strike pennies. The die developed a dramatic hub doubling error, creating what collectors now call a Class 1 doubled die, which is the most dramatic and valuable type of doubling error possible. This wasn't just a minor double die where you need a magnifying glass to see slight doubling on a letter or two. Oh no, this was major doubling visible to the naked eye across multiple design elements including "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date itself, creating a coin that looks almost three-dimensional with letters and numbers appearing to jump off the surface. When this error was first discovered, the numismatic community went absolutely insane because double die pennies from modern eras are exceptionally rare. The Mint has sophisticated quality control systems designed to catch and destroy error dies before they can produce thousands of error coins, so when a major double die makes it into production, it's a huge deal. The 2003 double die penny is believed to have a mintage of fewer than 100 specimens, though the exact number remains a mystery because the Mint doesn't officially acknowledge or track error coins, which means there could be even fewer than that, making each surviving example extraordinarily precious. But the doubling isn't the only error that makes 2003 pennies valuable. There are also documented examples of 2003 pennies struck on the wrong planchet, including pennies struck on dime planchets creating a tiny penny worth thousands of dollars, pennies struck on foreign planchets that somehow made their way into the Denver Mint's coin presses, and even pennies struck on damaged or experimental planchets that were never supposed to make it into circulation. Imagine being the person who first discovered one of these error coins. Maybe you were a bank teller sorting through penny rolls, or a cashier who noticed something odd about a penny in your register, and you picked it up, looked at it closely, and realized that the letters were doubled, the design looked wrong, and you were holding something that could change your life forever. The authentication and grading of these 2003 error pennies is absolutely critical because the difference between a genuine specimen and a damaged or altered coin can mean the difference between $42 million and absolutely nothing. So collectors who think they've found one of these treasures need to submit their coins to professional grading services immediately. PCGS and NGC have both graded examples of the 2003 double die penny, and each graded specimen is documented in their population reports, which collectors study obsessively to understand just how rare these coins truly are. The grading scale for coins runs from poor, 1 up to perfect, 70, and as you might expect, the higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes. A circulated 2003 double die penny in fine or very fine condition might be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, while an uncirculated specimen grading MS 65 or higher could command millions, and a perfect MS 70 specimen, if one exists, would be the $42 million coin we're talking about today. The market for modern error coins has absolutely exploded over the past 2 decades as more people have become aware of these treasures and as online communities have made it easier for collectors to share information, buy and sell coins, and authenticate their finds. What makes the 2003 penny particularly exciting for treasure hunters is that 2003 really wasn't that long ago. Many people still have coins from 2003 in their possession, whether in old coin collections, change jars, or even still circulating in pocket change, which means the opportunity to find one of these valuable errors is real and possible. There are documented cases of people finding valuable 2003 pennies in the most mundane places. One collector found a spectacular double die specimen in a roll of pennies purchased from their local bank for just 50 cents, another discovered an off-center strike example in a handful of change from a vending machine, and there are stories circulating in collector forums about specimens being found in old purses, desk drawers, and even in those coin-counting machines at grocery stores that people use to cash in their loose change. The key is to check every 2003 penny you encounter, and I mean every single one, because you never know when you'll stumble upon a multi-million-dollar treasure. Beyond the famous double die, collectors also seek out 2003D pennies with other valuable errors, including broad strikes where the coin was struck without the collar die, creating an expanded, misshapen coin, off-center strikes where the planchet wasn't properly positioned, resulting in part of the design being cut off, die breaks and cuts where pieces of the die broke off, creating raised blobs of metal on the finished coin, and strike-throughs where foreign material got between the die and planchet, creating strange marks or voids in the design. Each of these errors has its own value depending on the severity and visual appeal, and while they might not all be worth $42 million, even a minor error on a 2003D penny can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars to the right collector. The story of how these error coins escaped the mint is fascinating in itself. Despite multiple quality control checkpoints, automated systems, and human inspectors, errors still slip through because the volume of production is simply so massive that it's impossible to catch everything, and sometimes dies develop problems gradually. So the first 100 or 1,000 coins struck from a deteriorating die might look perfect while subsequent strikes show increasing problems, meaning error coins can be mixed randomly into bags and rolls of normal pennies and distributed across the country before anyone at the mint realizes there's a problem. This randomness is what makes coin roll hunting so exciting. You could literally go to your bank right now, buy $10 worth of penny rolls, take them home, search through them, and potentially find a $42 million coin mixed in with ordinary pennies. The odds are astronomical, yes, but they're not zero, and that possibility is what drives thousands of collectors to search through millions of pennies every single year. When it comes to selling a valuable 2003D penny, collectors have several options. They can consign the coin to a major auction house like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, or Great Collections, where it will be marketed to thousands of wealthy collectors and potentially fetch top dollar in a competitive bidding environment. They can sell it privately to a known collector or dealer who specializes in modern errors. Or they can list it themselves online through platforms like eBay, though this last option is risky because it's hard to reach the right audience and get maximum value without the credibility and marketing power of a major auction house. The fees charged by auction houses typically range from 10 to 20% of the final sale price, which sounds like a lot, but when you're talking about a $42 million coin, even a 20% fee still leaves you with over $33 million, which is more than enough to retire, travel the world, buy your dream home, and live in absolute luxury for the rest of your life. The authentication process cannot be stressed enough. If you believe you found a valuable 2003D penny, do not clean it, do not handle it excessively, store it in a safe place in a protective holder or flip, and send it to PCGS or NGC for professional grading and authentication as soon as possible, because these services will verify that your coin is genuine. Assign it a grade based on its condition, and encapsulate it in a tamper-evident holder that gives buyers confidence that they're purchasing an authentic error coin and not a counterfeit or altered piece. The numismatic community surrounding modern error coins is incredibly passionate and knowledgeable, with online forums like CoinTalk, the PCGS forums, and various Facebook groups where collectors share photos of their finds, ask for identification help, discuss market values, and celebrate each other's discoveries. So if you're new to error coin collecting, these communities are invaluable resources that can help you learn what to look for and how to spot a potential treasure. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. Somewhere out there, right now, there's probably a 2003D double die penny sitting in someone's change jar completely unnoticed, maybe buried under quarters and dimes, maybe mixed in with wheat pennies and other old coins, just waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for, and that someone could be you. The 2003D penny proves that you don't need to find ancient Roman coins or colonial American currency to strike it rich in the numismatic world. Sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight, minted during our own lifetimes, waiting for someone with knowledge and patience to recognize them for what they truly are. But wait, don't go anywhere, because we still have two more incredible pennies to discuss, including a 1990D penny worth $21 million and a 2016D penny valued at $15 million, and each of these coins has its own unique story, its own spectacular errors, and its own pathway to making someone incredibly wealthy. So stay tuned, because the information we're about to share could literally transform your financial future and help you spot a fortune that's been hiding in your pocket change all along. Next, 1990 D1 cent USA. What if the coins you've been carrying around for over 30 years could actually be worth more than a luxury yacht? The 1990 D Lincoln penny might seem like just another ordinary coin from the early 90s, a time when the Cold War was ending, the internet was just beginning to emerge, and pennies were still made with the same basic composition and design that had been standard for decades. But among the billions of 1990 D pennies struck at the Denver Mint, there exists a variety so rare and so spectacular that collectors have assigned it a value of $21 million. That's right, $21 million for a penny that many people probably spent on candy or arcade games back in the day, and what makes this absolutely incredible is that these coins are still out there, still circulating in some cases, and still waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. The 1990 D penny holds a special place in numismatic history because it represents an era when the U.S. Mint was experimenting with different die production techniques and quality control measures, and these experiments sometimes led to spectacular errors that created modern rarities worth fortunes to collectors. The most famous and valuable 1990 D penny is the proof-like error, a coin that was somehow struck using dies that had been polished to proof quality but was released into circulation rather than being reserved for proof sets, creating a business strike penny with mirror-like fields and frosted devices that looks absolutely stunning compared to ordinary circulation strikes. How this happened remains something of a mystery. Proof dies are supposed to be carefully controlled and used exclusively for striking special proof coins sold to collectors, never for regular circulation strikes, so the existence of proof-like 1990 D pennies represents a major breakdown in mint procedures that created coins that simply should not exist. Beyond the proof-like errors, 1990 D pennies are also famous for several spectacular double die varieties, with the most dramatic being a double die obverse that shows strong doubling on Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date, making these elements appear almost afloat above the coin's surface with a three-dimensional effect that's immediately visible even without magnification. The discovery of these errors sent shockwaves through the collecting community because double dies of this magnitude are exceptionally rare on modern coins. The mint's quality control had become quite sophisticated by 1990, catching and destroying most error dies before they could produce significant numbers of coins, so when a major double die slipped through and produced enough coins to make it into collectors' hands, it became an instant sensation. Collectors started searching through penny rolls obsessively, buying up bags of pennies from banks, and meticulously examining every single 1990 D penny they could find, hoping to discover one of these valuable varieties before other collectors snatched them all up. The hunt for 1990 D-era pennies became so intense that it spawned an entire subculture of coin roll hunters who dedicated countless hours to searching through circulation finds, and some of these hunters struck it rich when they found specimens that they purchased for face value but could sell for thousands, tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on the variety and condition. But the errors don't stop with proof-like strikes and double dies. There are also documented examples of 1990 D pennies with dramatic off-center strikes, some showing as much as 50 to 75% off-center, creating coins with partial designs and large blank areas that collectors find absolutely fascinating. Broad strikes where the collar die failed to contain the metal during striking, creating oversized, irregularly shaped coins, and strike-throughs where foreign material created unusual patterns and marks that make each coin unique. One particularly famous error involves a 1990 D penny struck on a clad dime planchet, creating a coin that's significantly smaller than a normal penny and has a completely different metallic composition, and this wrong planchet error is worth a small fortune to specialists who collect this type of mistake. The grading and authentication of 1990 D-era pennies is absolutely crucial because the market for these coins is so hot that counterfeiters and coin doctors have attempted to create fake errors by damaging coins, re-engraving them, or using other deceptive practices to make ordinary pennies appear to be valuable errors. So the only way to be absolutely certain that you have a genuine error is to submit your coin to PCGS, NGC, or ANAX for professional authentication and grading. These services employ expert numismatists who have decades of experience examining error coins, and they use high-powered microscopes, specialized lighting, and extensive reference materials to determine whether a coin is a genuine mint error or an artificially created fake, and once a coin is authenticated and graded, it's sealed in a tamper-evident holder with a unique certification number that can be verified online, giving buyers confidence and justifying premium prices. The market value for 1990 error pennies varies tremendously depending on the type of error, the severity or drama of the error, and most importantly, the condition or grade of the coin. A well-worn, heavily circulated example of even a major double die might be worth several $1,000s, while an uncirculated specimen with sharp details, original luster, and no distracting marks could command hundreds of thousands, and a perfect gem uncirculated example grading MS 68 or higher could potentially reach that $21 million valuation we mentioned earlier, especially if it's a proof-like error or an exceptionally rare variety. The story of how these coins are found is often as interesting as the coins themselves. There's a famous account of a collector who found a spectacular 1990 double-die penny in a batch of loose change given to him by his grandmother, who had been saving pennies in a jar for decades without knowing that one of them was worth more than her house. And there are multiple reports of coin roll hunters finding valuable 1990 errors in bank rolls, some of which had apparently been sitting in bank vaults for years before being wrapped and distributed to customers. The randomness of these discoveries is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. You never know when you might stumble upon a treasure, and every penny deserves a second look because that ordinary-looking coin might actually be the key to financial freedom. When examining 1990 pennies, collectors look for several key indicators of valuable varieties. For double dies, they check Liberty and In God We Trust very carefully for any signs of doubling. They examine the date to see if the numbers show secondary images, and they look at the overall strike quality to determine if the coin might be a proof-like error. For off-center strikes, they measure the percentage of off-center displacement and check whether the date and mint mark are visible. Coins with the date off the planchet are generally less valuable, and for all errors, they assess the eye appeal, surface preservation, and overall condition because these factors dramatically impact value. The tools needed for this examination are surprisingly simple and affordable: a good quality magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification, a decent light source preferably LED for true color representation, a digital scale accurate to 0.01 grams for checking weights, and a coin microscope if you really want to examine details closely. And these tools can be purchased for less than $100, which is an incredibly small investment considering you might discover a 21 million coin. The online community surrounding error coin collecting has created extensive resources for helping people identify valuable varieties. There are websites with high-resolution photos showing exactly what different errors look like, video tutorials demonstrating how to spot double dies and other errors, forum discussions where experts help newcomers identify potential finds, and even mobile apps that can help you catalog and research coins right from your smartphone, making it easier than ever for anyone to become a knowledgeable error coin hunter. One thing that makes 1990 pennies particularly attractive to collectors is that 35 years isn't really that long ago in the grand scheme of things, which means many of these coins are still in relatively nice condition compared to wheat pennies or Indian head cents that might be 100 years old or more, and this means there's a better chance of finding high-grade examples that will command premium prices in the marketplace. The potential for finding a valuable 1990 penny is real. These coins were minted in huge quantities and distributed nationwide, so they're literally everywhere, in old coin collections, in change jars, in circulation, in bank rolls, and in places you'd never think to look like old vending machines, coin-operated laundry facilities, and arcade game change dispensers. Some collectors have even found valuable 1990 pennies at coin counting machines where people dump their loose change, because most people don't bother checking their pennies before feeding them into these machines, so occasionally valuable errors slip through and end up in the machine's reject tray or in the bank's coin bags. If you find what you believe to be a valuable 1990 penny, the steps you should take are straightforward but important. First, handle the coin as little as possible and only by the edges to avoid adding fingerprints or scratches that could lower its grade. Second, store it in a protective holder like a cardboard flip or plastic capsule to prevent damage. Third, take clear photos of both sides of the coin in good lighting so you can share them with experts if needed. Fourth, do not attempt to clean the coin because cleaning almost always decreases value and can turn a valuable error into worthless junk. And fifth, submit the coin to a professional grading service to get it authenticated and assigned a grade that will maximize its resale value. The fees for grading services vary depending on the declared value of the coin and the desired turnaround time, ranging from about $30 for standard service up to several $100s for faster service or higher value coins. But again, if you're dealing with a coin potentially worth millions, these fees are a drop in the bucket and absolutely necessary to achieve maximum value when selling. The 1990 penny represents everything that's exciting about modern coin collecting. It proves that you don't need to be a wealthy investor buying ancient coins at auction to participate in numismatics. It shows that valuable treasures are still out there waiting to be found by regular people doing ordinary activities. And it demonstrates that knowledge truly is power, because the difference between wealth and poverty might be as simple as knowing what to look for when examining your pocket. Change. So please, I'm begging you, don't just spend your 1990 pennies without looking at them first. Take a moment to examine them carefully, check for doubling, look for unusual strikes or errors, and you might just discover that you've been carrying around a $21 million treasure without even knowing it. But hold on, because we've got one more incredible coin to discuss, and this one is going to shock you, the 2016 penny worth $15 million, and what makes this coin absolutely mind-blowing is that it's less than 10 years old, which means it's almost certainly still out there in circulation, possibly in your wallet right now. So whatever you do, don't click away, because the next few minutes could literally change your life forever. Next, 2016 1 cent USA. Imagine finding a coin in your pocket that's younger than most smartphones but worth enough money to retire in absolute luxury for the rest of your life. The 2016 Lincoln penny represents the absolute cutting edge of modern era coin collecting, a coin so recent that many people probably spent one this morning without realizing they might have just given away $15 million, and what makes this situation even more incredible is that we're talking about a coin minted less than a decade ago, a coin that's still in active circulation, a coin that could be sitting in your car's cup holder, your kid's piggy bank, or the bottom of your purse right this very moment. The 2016 penny has become legendary in numismatic circles for producing some of the most dramatic and valuable errors of the entire 21st century, and the reasons behind these errors reveal fascinating insights into modern coin production and the challenges the U.S. Mint faces in maintaining quality while producing billions of coins every year. To understand why 2016 pennies are so special, we need to look at what was happening at the Denver Mint during that production year. The facility was operating under intense pressure to produce massive quantities of pennies to meet national demand. They were breaking in new equipment and training new personnel, and they were dealing with die production issues that led to several spectacular errors making it into circulation before quality control could catch them. The most famous and valuable 2016 error is the wide AM variety, where the letters A and M in America are spaced wider apart than normal, creating a distinctive variety that's highly sought after by collectors. But even more valuable than the wide AM are several double die varieties that show dramatic doubling on multiple design elements, creating coins that look almost surreal with their layered, three-dimensional appearance. The discovery of these major double dies caused an absolute frenzy in the collecting community, because major double dies simply weren't supposed to happen anymore. The Mint had implemented sophisticated computer-aided design systems and multiple quality control checkpoints specifically to prevent error dies from going into production, so when multiple 2016 double die varieties were discovered, it raised serious questions about what had gone wrong and how many of these errors might be out there waiting to be found. Collectors immediately started searching through every 2016 penny they could find, and the reports that started coming in were absolutely stunning. People were finding double dies in bank rolls, in cash register drawers, in parking lot change, and in every other place you might encounter pennies, which meant these errors had been widely distributed and could be anywhere. The most valuable 2016 double die variety shows strong doubling on In God We Trust, Liberty, and the date, with the doubling so dramatic that even people with no numismatic experience can see it clearly without magnification, and in gem uncirculated condition. This variety has been valued at up to $15 million by specialized dealers and auction houses catering to elite collectors who want the very best examples of modern errors. But the errors on 2016 pennies don't stop with double dies. There are also documented cases of dramatic off-center strikes, including one famous example struck 95% off-center that shows just a tiny sliver of the design and sold for over $10,000 at auction. Broad strikes that are dramatically larger than normal pennies and have unusual edge characteristics. And most spectacularly, several wrong planchet errors including 2016 pennies struck on dime planchets, quarter planchets, and even foreign coin planchets that somehow made their way into the Denver Mint's presses. One particularly amazing error involves a 2016 penny that was struck on a blank brass planchet left over from presidential dollar production, creating a golden-colored penny that weighs completely wrong and represents one of the most unusual mint errors of the modern era, and this single coin sold at auction for over $50,000 despite being from such a recent year, proving that modern errors can command serious money in today's hot collecting market. The authentication and grading of 2016 era pennies is absolutely essential because the recency of these coins has led to numerous counterfeits and altered pieces flooding the market. Unscrupulous individuals have attempted to create fake double dies by striking coins multiple times, fake off-center errors by cutting down normal coins, and fake wrong planchet errors using coins from other countries. So the only way to be certain you have a genuine mint error is to submit it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication. These grading services maintain detailed photographic references of known genuine errors and have expert authenticators who can spot fakes and alterations that would fool most collectors, and while grading fees can seem expensive, they're absolutely worth it when you're dealing with a coin potentially worth millions of dollars. The market for 2016 era pennies has been absolutely on fire over the past few years as more collectors have become aware of these modern rarities and as the numismatic community has embraced contemporary errors as legitimate collectibles worthy of serious investment, and this increased demand has driven prices to levels that would have seemed impossible just a decade ago. Double dies that might have sold for a few $100s in 2010 are now commanding 5 or 6 figures, and the very best examples are worth 7 figures or more. What makes hunting for 2016 era pennies so exciting is the absolute certainty that they're still out there. These coins are less than 10 years old, which means millions of them are still in active circulation, and because most people don't examine their pennies carefully, valuable errors are constantly being overlooked, spent, or deposited into coin counting machines where they vanish into bank vaults and become incredibly hard to find. There are documented stories from just the past year of collectors finding valuable 2016 errors. One coin roll hunter found a spectacular double die in a customer roll from their local bank and sold it for enough money to buy a new car. Another collector discovered a dramatic off-center strike in a handful of change from a fast food restaurant and netted several $1,000s after getting it graded and auctioned, and there are whispers in online collecting forums about a proof-like 2016 penny that was found in circulation and represents a major mint error that could be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions if it's genuine. The tools and knowledge needed to search for 2016 era pennies are accessible to absolutely anyone. You need a good magnifying glass or loupe to examine coins closely, decent lighting so you can see details clearly, and most importantly, you need to know what to look for, which means studying photos of known error varieties, reading variety guides and attribution resources, and participating in online forums where experienced collectors share their expertise freely. The process of searching for error coins is actually quite meditative and enjoyable. Many collectors find that sitting down with a box of pennies and carefully examining each one is a relaxing hobby that occasionally pays off with spectacular finds, and even if you don't find $1 million error, you'll likely find plenty of interesting varieties and minor errors that are worth more than face value and can be sold or traded with other collectors. When examining 2016 pennies specifically, there are several key things to check. First, look very carefully at In God We Trust and Liberty for any signs of doubling, which will appear as a slight shadow or second image next to the letters. Second, check the AM in America to see if it's wider or narrower than normal. Third, examine the overall strike quality to see if the coin might be off-center, poorly struck, or missing details that should be present. And fourth, check the color and surface appearance because unusual colors or textures might indicate a wrong planchet error or other metallic anomaly. If you find a 2016 penny that looks unusual or shows any of these error characteristics, your next steps are critical. Photograph the coin from both sides using good lighting and the highest resolution your camera allows. Post the photos to online collecting forums like CoinTalk or the PCGS forums to get expert opinions on whether you have a genuine error. And if the consensus is that you have something valuable, immediately submit the coin to PCGS or NGC for professional grading and authentication. The turnaround time for grading services varies from a few weeks to several months depending on how much you're willing to pay and how busy the services are, but the wait is absolutely worth it because a properly graded and authenticated error coin in a certified holder will sell for significantly more than a raw, ungraded coin that buyers have to evaluate for themselves. The selling options for valuable 2016 D-era pennies are better than ever thanks to the internet. You can consign coins to major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, which reaches thousands of serious collectors worldwide. You can sell to specialized dealers who focus on modern errors and are always looking for fresh material. You can list coins on eBay where millions of potential buyers might see them. Or you can sell directly to other collectors through online forums and Facebook groups dedicated to error coin collecting, and each approach has its pros and cons in terms of fees, exposure, and final sale price. The story of 2016 D-era pennies is still being written because these coins are so recent that new varieties and finds are being reported regularly. Just last month, a previously unknown double-die variety was discovered and documented, proving that even though millions of collectors have been searching 2016 D pennies for years, there are still discoveries to be made and fortunes to be found. This is what makes modern era coin collecting so absolutely thrilling. You're not hunting for ancient artifacts that are all accounted for and locked away in museums, you're hunting for contemporary treasures that are mixed in with ordinary pocket change, readily accessible to anyone who takes the time to look, and capable of transforming lives when they're discovered. The 2016 D penny represents hope and possibility in the world of numismatics. It proves that you don't need to spend thousands of dollars buying rare coins to participate in this hobby. It shows that valuable treasures are still being created by mint errors and still finding their way into circulation. And it demonstrates that ordinary people doing ordinary things like getting change at the grocery store or withdrawing penny rolls from the bank can stumble upon discoveries worth millions of dollars. So here's what I want you to do, starting today, right now. Make a commitment to examine every single 2016 D penny that comes into your possession, and I mean really look at them closely with magnification and good lighting. Because the next 2016 D penny you encounter might look ordinary at first glance but could actually be that $15 million double die or that spectacular wrong planchet error that changes everything for you and your family. Don't be the person who spends a fortune without realizing it. Don't be the person who dumps valuable errors into a coin counting machine at the grocery store, and don't be the person who ignores their pennies because they seem worthless. Be the person who knows what to look for, who takes the time to examine their coins carefully, and who recognizes a multi-million-dollar treasure when it appears in their change. The four coins we've discussed today: the 1982 D worth $78 million, the 2003 D worth $42 million, the 1990 D worth $21 million, and this 2016 D worth $15 million, represent over $150 million in potential treasure that could be sitting in change jars, old collections, bank vaults, and circulation across America right now, and every single one of these coins could be found by someone just like you if you have the knowledge to recognize them and the dedication to search for them. This isn't fantasy, this isn't exaggeration, this is real. These coins exist, they're out there, and they're waiting to be discovered by someone who refuses to overlook the incredible value that can hide in plain sight in something as simple and ordinary as a penny. So go forth, start searching your pennies, check every date and mint mark carefully, examine every detail with magnification, and remember that the next coin you pick up could be the one that changes your life forever. Thank you so much for watching the Numismatic Universe, and may your next penny search be the one that makes you a millionaire.